What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to a Thursday edition of House Divided. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. The Texas Longhorns have a new defensive line coach. We'll get into that in just a second. Jim Harbaugh is back in the NFL. Are the Longhorns going to raid his roster? What would that even mean? Like a guy or two? Do us a solid. Hit the like button, subscribe to the video, get notifications. We're trying to get to 19,000 so that we can get to 19 billion subscribers, but you got to take baby steps. We learned that in What About Bob? You got to take baby steps. Chad, the Longhorns finally had this defensive line coach situation put to bed. The Longhorns have hired, let me make sure that I got it right, Kenny Baker.
Yep.
Look, man, I looked into about 60 different names over the course of the last couple of weeks of, I'm hearing this, and this is a guy that's on this short list, and you should pay attention to this guy. Kenny Baker was not on my list, but he is the name that comes off of Steve Sarkisian's list. He comes from the Miami Dolphins as an assistant defensive line coach, very similar to the profile that Rod Wright would have brought with him should he have taken the job earlier in the week. He's coached at the college level before, but never at a really high level. He was at Mercer for 5 seasons. 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, 5 seasons as the defensive line coach. Then went to Chattanooga as the defensive line coach. Then coached defensive ends for a season at Western Kentucky, or 2 seasons, it looks like. Was defensive ends coach and then defensive line coach. As you can tell, like I'm still memorizing the bio and all the pieces of it. And then has spent the last couple of years in the NFL as an assistant NFL defensive line coach. Now I feel like, Chad, we should have a wheel. And if I could spin it, I could have 30 different little hot takes or not so hot takes. Maybe they're just warm takes. I've got a lot of things to say about this. I don't even know where to begin. Where do you begin?
Hang on, the wheel's slowing down. We'll start with not R2-D2. Kenny Baker is not the Kenny Baker that played R2-D2. For you Star Wars freaks, I think that's most important to start. But Ketch, in terms of this guy, yes, he has only coached at places SEC teams schedule in November. That's true. Mercer, Chattanooga, Western Kentucky. But if you're a Texas fan, you have to have some trust here. And we do have a quick question. Can we verify for Doug? Is this out yet officially?
We've confirmed it. It hasn't been announced, but Orange Bloods has confirmed that Kenny Baker will be the new defensive line coach.
So, Doug, there you go. In terms of the argument for it, Catch, 2 things jumped out to me right before we went on the air that would calm me down if I'm a Texas fan, because you're thinking, oh my God, who is this guy or whatever. 2 things. He went from Western Kentucky to the Dolphins to being involved in the Senior Bowl in like a year. So that tells me he can't be nothing. He can't. You can't go from you're at Western Kentucky to Mike McDaniel, one of the young creative minds in the league, grabs a hold of you. And more importantly, Vic Fangio, one of the badass DCs in the NFL, grabs a hold of you. Now, of course, Vic just got let go and may end up somewhere else. But take that into account. And then our man Blake, the super producer, I believe was the one that found the little nugget that he's one of the D-line coaches at the Senior Bowl. They don't just let anybody do that. So all of that together to me says if I'm a Texas fan, I got to breathe on this dude a little bit and trust my coach.
A couple of things. I'm sorry. I'm laughing because once when I got into trouble like 5 or 6 years ago for declaring that Shaka Smart was a damn good coach.
Oh, right.
One of the things I said to support he's a damn good coach is that USA Basketball likes him and has him coaching, their under 21s, and he's been on Popovich's staff or Coach K's staff. And it's like, I said, Team USA doesn't just hire nobodies. He's got to be good. That's proof. And hearing you say that they don't just let guys coach at the Senior Bowl I've tapped into that before, Chad, that logic. Sometimes people don't want to hear that.
Okie doke. So to answer your question, I have no thoughts.
Yeah. Well, look, here's the thing. There's a lot of ways to talk about this, and I think they're all fair. They're all fair. If you're a Texas football fan and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. When we hired Bo Davis, we celebrated the hire because everybody around college football that follows it strongly knows that Bo Davis is one of the best defensive line coaches in college football, right? He was at Alabama. He had been with the Lions as an actual defensive line coach instead of assistant defensive line coach. Mm-hmm. Like there was weight with the resume, and it was like, yeah, man, Sark's going out and hiring the absolute biggest and baddest. That's not what this hire is. It is not, to steal a scene from Tommy Boy, this isn't really a guarantee on the box. You can't look at the resume and say yes or no based purely on the resume. LSU's getting Bo Davis. He's got a long resume. They know exactly what they're getting. It's a guarantee on the box. Kenny Baker hasn't coached long enough and had enough success to be able to say, oh, yeah, no, Sark just went out and got one of the best defensive tackles in the industry. And like, wow, Texas is lucky to have him. That might be true. It might be. But there's no guarantee on the box. So if you're a Texas fan today and you're like, we've gone from hiring the best of the best to hiring a guy that nobody knows, yeah, I have a question about that. That's fair. Now, I think it's important that everybody acknowledge Steve Sarkisian, by and large, has kind of stuck the landing with most of his hires. So I think he has earned some benefit of the doubt. You know, he hired Chris Jackson away from the NFL a year ago to coach wide receivers. There were a lot of questions. And to be fair, Chris Jackson was like an on-field wide receiver coach, no assistant wide receiver coach. He was the actual Michael Scott of wide receivers in Jacksonville as opposed to the Dwight Schrute, right? Like nobody grows up wanting to be an assistant anything. They want to be the guy. But I'm sure that this guy, I don't know a lot about this guy. I can't give you a lot of definitives. I can kind of echo what Chad just said, which is he's a guy that has made, if you forget about the early part of his career and you think just from 2020, he's gone from Western Kentucky to the NFL as an assistant, now to one of the top Power 5 programs in the country. At this very moment, he has put himself in like he's now one of the highest soaring young defensive line coaches in the country. It's funny how one day you can not be on a list and the next day the right situation comes along, you're on the list. I think you got to give Steve Sarkisian some benefit of the doubt. I have mostly thought that when you look at his initial staff and you look where he's made replacement hires, so far, I tend to think they've either been better or, in the case of a guy like Chris Jackson, certainly nothing like backwards. They were great in wide receiver recruiting this year. They, or at least very good. They had their wide receivers. I think everybody generally feels like those guys all played really well. So you'd give Chris Jackson an attaboy for that. I think if I had to be, there are kind of a couple of things that stand out, Chad. Number one, this wasn't choice number one. I don't know how far down the choice list he went, but we know that Rod Wright was on it. And we know that, this hire could have been made a week ago. When the Dolphins knocked out early, it could have been. So we all need to just acknowledge this wasn't the first choice. Number two, When Bo Davis left and took the LSU job, when I was talking to sources that day about Bo Davis leaving and what this moment in time represented, one of the things that was mentioned to me was, well, as much as we love Bo and as much as we would absolutely have loved Bo to have stuck around, Bo leaving does give us an opportunity to potentially improve an area where Bo could be better. And where Bo could be better is in recruiting. He's coached the hell out of these defensive linemen since he's been here. But those are all guys that Tom Herman recruited. The Bo Davis recruits, they need to be better. And they need to, and that's where, they need 5 stars. They need super blue chips. And he hasn't always been on top of that. So when he left, the first thing I heard was, well, we're going to get us a badass recruiter and we'll at least improve there. Now, look, Steve Sarkisian didn't tell me that, but that's what people in and around the program told me when I was talking to them about, like, what are your expectations? Whatever Kenny Baker is, he's not a proven recruiter. And that does not mean that he can't show up and be a great recruiter from day one. I mean, look, maybe this guy's got like a beautiful wife. Maybe this guy's got like 20 beautiful wives. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Like, maybe he's Mormon. I don't know. I don't know Kenny Baker well enough yet. Maybe he could if he wanted to, right? But when I talk about this isn't a guarantee on the box, I'm really thinking about recruiting. He may be great, but Texas didn't hire, so they did not hire a great recruiter. He's never really had to be a great recruiter. So we'll only be able to call him that should that be what he becomes. You're not getting a guy that you can look at from a track record standpoint and say he hasn't done it yet but with opportunities, right? There are guys all over the country coaching position coaches who have been in the big leagues for a while. And it's like, well, that guy never lands anybody any good. Well, that's not who he is. There's neither anything positive or negative for us to lean on to give us an idea of what he's going to be as a recruiter. So I don't know. I don't know how to talk about this. It's a little bit of a shoulder shrug. But I do trust that Steve Sarkisian wouldn't hire a bum, that this guy must come heavily recommended, that he's working at the Senior Bowl or scheduled to work at the Senior Bowl, even as an assistant defensive line coach. The people at the Senior Bowl like him. So, I think people won't want to hear this. I think it's kind of a wait and see, Chad. I neither want to declare victory and put a flag on the moon and say, look at what we did. But I also have zero desire to like shit all over the guy and Sarkisian and the hire. Just because I don't know somebody doesn't mean that a guy's not really qualified and good. So I'm taking very much personally a wait and see attitude. I know Texas fans would love to take a victory lap right now because they hired someone who's a little more certified as being a total badass. But if Sarkisian gets this right and he hires a diamond in the making, then we'll look back at this and say, man, Sark's got a real eye for talent. If he doesn't, they'll get rid of Kenny Baker and they'll go get somebody else. So, I am in wait and see mode. How's that for a hot take?
There you go. And we'll check out this chat as well. If you want to throw a super chat in with your thoughts, it'll go right to the front of the line. Let's get a couple chat thoughts out there from the discussion already. Michael says, here's the bottom line. Sark has never hired poorly, not a single time. Gotta believe
no, he has.
He knows what he's doing.
He literally hired Andre Coleman. Like, that happened. I didn't make that up. That happened. Now, what he's done is quickly corrected himself at times. But, I think he's generally a good hire. But we can't say things like he's never hired poorly. I mean, yeah, he did. Yeah.
Now go to Baker specifically. Austin says 4 all-conference D-line players and a defensive player of the year in the last 4 years of college coaching for Baker. One of the other chatters looked up that from 2009 to 13, he was a high school coach in Georgia, where he's from. And Sark After Dark says that means recruiting in Georgia just got interesting. To your recent point, Catch, the guy may not, is he a big time recruiter? Can he help out in that area? I believe I saw today he played at Gardner Webb, and he is a Georgia guy. So is that the thought, that whatever Bo Davis was in recruiting and you need to upgrade that, even if Baker's not a great recruiter, do they believe he is a better recruiter than Bo Davis and wants to recruit?
I don't think there's no way you could say that.
In a way, like, is that how they're thinking about Baker?
I don't know. I don't want to put words. I haven't. It's still early. I mean, this happened in the last hour. Before this day is over, it's funny. Maybe Anwar should be hosting the show today, because Anwar had already been getting some intel on Baker. That's what he's doing right now. By the end of the day, I'll be better able. We'll do the modcast at 4:00. And we'll be able to have a fuller discussion about that. No, I look, Bo Davis is not a great recruiter, but he's had success, big time success as a recruiter. I mean, even if he's done nothing but like stumble and fall face forward into it, he has stumbled and fallen face first into it.
Into some talent.
It's one of the reasons why, if you accuse Bo Davis of just being kind of people will say, whoa, look at what he did at Alabama. Look at some of the names that he's landed over the years. We don't have that with Baker. So, he's a question mark. And look, to some degree, Chris Jackson is still a question mark. They didn't get Ryan Wingo because Chris Jackson's the best recruiter in the history of recruiters. They got Ryan Wingo largely because Steve Sarkisian, as a head coach, is one of the best recruiters in the country. I think there's a part of this that makes me think Steve Sarkisian's he and Jeff Banks together, I think they feel like those two guys by themselves can handle recruiting at times. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll come in and close the deal. I'll help. They are so involved. And Sarkisian is so involved that I think they feel like they've got the recruiting stuff. Whatever Bo Davis was or wasn't, he probably had help along the way. I don't know, man. It's just, you can look at his profile and say, well, he's from Georgia and he's coached in that area, so he's got to know some people. Well, okay, why isn't he on the Georgia staff? Or why isn't the detraction to this is, if Texas doesn't make this hire, Chad, what's he doing this year otherwise? And based on where we are in the college hiring kind of situation, he's probably not working major Power 5 college football.
No, my guess is he would be hoping Fangio doesn't lose his number.
Well, yeah, because there's also no guarantee that any of those guys that would have been on the Dolphins staff will absolutely retain their jobs. So it's possible that this is a guy that would have been an assistant defensive line coach somewhere. Who knows? Maybe somebody – look, there are NFL staffs that are changing hands left and right. So maybe he would have elevated. But I think if he thought it's a little bit like Rod Wright. If you think you're on the verge of being elevated in the NFL, maybe you stay there. So there's no way to get around the fact that if we're just having an honest conversation without declaring right, wrong, or anything overly strong at the moment, this isn't likely a guy that would have been anywhere near the job he has had Texas not stepped in, right time, right place, very serendipitous of the moment. But it's not a guy, it's like, oh my God, we got Kenny Baker. And if we hadn't, Alabama was about to hire him. That's not the dynamics in play. And I think if you make the hire 30 days earlier, in a world where that's the timing, then you can say this guy was being coveted by everybody. And if it wasn't us, it was going to be LSU or Michigan or whomever. The timing of this is where it's like, okay. I think he's he's got a very interesting profile. I'm fascinated to see how this plays out. I don't think it's as easy as, well, he's from Georgia, so now Texas will be kicking ass in Georgia for the players they want. I mean, it's Georgia. If Georgia has a 5-star defensive end, and it's like, well, we're going to send our Georgia guy in there. Well, Georgia's going to send their Georgia guy in there, and they've got home field advantage. So if this makes Texas better in recruiting in Georgia, then yeah, absolutely. But you can say you hope that happens. You can't definitively say that's going to happen. And I think Texas fans in general, every time, and look, I would include Texas A&M in this as well. Schools at that level, right? So SEC, top 10, top 15 jobs in the country. Fans love coaching searches because they like to see what shiny toy they're going to get. And they want to be able, Texas fans want to be able to go to Texas A&M and go, ha, look at who we just got. Our guy's better than your guy. And this is not a hire that really allows you to do that. So there are Texas fans who are really getting ready to have a big parade and a party. And Texas probably didn't make a hire that anybody's going to throw a parade or party for. But that doesn't mean that he's not going to be excellent. That doesn't mean in 5 years he won't be thought of as a guy in that realm. My guess is he's probably going to be one of the lower paid members of this staff. He's not going to make $1 million a year. Texas certainly had, I think, leverage in discussions with him because I don't even know that he knew where he was going to be next year. So there's a mixed bag in the discussion, and I think it's okay. What I hate is I hate two things. I hate Texas fans that no matter what happens, this was the greatest thing that ever could have happened. I saw someone on Twitter say, this guy's a rising superstar. Let's not do that. Maybe, but there's nothing that you could point to and say, that's the example of that. And at the same token, this is almost certainly not going to be a bad hire, a terrible hire. Will he be elite? Can't answer that. Is he almost certainly capable and qualified for this job? Yeah, probably. And I'm sorry if you want to live on one extreme or the other. I don't think that's the right place to be on this. I think it's okay to ask questions, and it's also okay to point out, this guy's got some things in his favor that are pretty promising. Let's see how they work out. I like that he's young. I really like that the Senior Bowl selected him to be one of their defensive line coaches for the Senior Bowl week. If he fulfills that obligation and works the Senior Bowl, we'll be able to send Alex Dunlap's on his way to the Senior Bowl. He's going to be there one way or the other. It'd be kind of cool to be able to watch him in person for a few days, do the defensive line drills and talk to him. But I don't know. We'll see. I have my guess is, he won't do that. And they'll have him get right to it at Texas. But, it's also possible that they could just have him go ahead and coach the Senior Bowl group. That actually sounds like it'd be kind of good for him, given that it'd be a chance from a leadership position to kind of get some practicing in. But like I said, I could probably write 10,000 words on this because there's a lot of different ways to look at it and approach it.
Oscar, we see your super chat. We're going to get to that. Remember, they go all the way to the front of the line, up over 450 folks in the Specs chat. Longhorn fans, whether you're happy or you're a little concerned about the new defensive line hire, here's my thought. Deep Eddy Vodka. It'll help either way. 8 different flavors. You could go straight. You could sip it. You could put it in a cocktail. You can make the cocktail at the house, or you can head on out there to the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room. Tell them Chad sent me and says I should get a dreamsicle. It will make the pain it'll either filter the excitement or take the pain away, whatever you need to do. It's Thursday, so that means 11 to 7 are the hours. 11 to 7 tomorrow as well. Saturday, 11 to 5. Sunday, 12 to 5. Make your plans to get out to the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room. Tell them we sent you at Orange Bloods Live. It's always a good time. Get on out there. Bring your friends. Bring your family. Do it safely, but just go have fun with Deep Eddy Vodka. All right, Catch. Our man Oscar, he's always trying to help you out. He's just letting you know for $4.99. Jeff, back-to-back classes at Belmont today. If anything of importance happens, you rest assured I'll be your number one source, but just don't tell anyone.
Number one orange blood source right there, Oscar. Oh, I just told everybody.
Oscar's on campus. Oscar's going to get it done. Also, this one, our man Blake looked up some numbers. Miami, the Dolphins, 4th in rushing yards per attempt allowed, 3rd in sacks, and 2nd in QB knockdowns, all while ranking near the bottom of the league in blitz percentage. There you go, Blake. Go get some numbers. Go get some numbers to back it up.
And that's great for the Miami Dolphins' actual defensive line coach. Again, it's okay to be honest. It's okay to be honest. Admit out loud right now to yourself, Blake and anybody else that may need to do this. We have never, ever, 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 ever either given credit or blame to an assistant coach. It's never happened. I have seen Texas have some bad seasons in the past. And you know what has never happened? It's like, well, let's talk about here's a real life example. Texas pass defense last year wasn't very good. Ranked in the 100s in pass defense. Who the fuck is the assistant coach to the assistant coach on this position? What is he doing? Why are we 4th in the Big 12 in this stat? Oh, we're 1st in the Big 12? Better give a raise to that assistant coach. Like, we've never done that in any sport ever. If there's a problem with the defensive line coach gets the blame, or the coordinator. So the one thing I'm much more willing to point to what he did at his other college stops and say, okay, these were the players. Because you know what else the NFL is about? The Jimmies and the Joes, and not the X's and the O's. An actual NFL head coach told us that many, many moons ago. And it's like, well, how good are the Miami Dolphins players? Because that matters too. Sometimes in the NFL, the coaching only goes as far as, well, hey, coach, I got to block Aaron Donald this weekend. Can you have the assistant offensive line coach whip up a plan for me? and consequently, what's not happening is after the Cowboys lost to the Packers, Mike McCarthy didn't walk into he didn't go have a conversation with his DC and say, what the hell happened with the assistant D-line coach this week? Why didn't we stop the run?
Bring me his head.
Put his head on a platter. And you know what? I'm going to show it to the public so that everybody knows I took a stand. So let's just, let's not do the thing where it's like the Dolphins were 1st in sacks. Well, maybe they got some badass players. That's literally the first thing I ask in professional sports. If he was the assistant coach of the Phoenix Suns and it was like, Devin Booker scored 44 last night, we never go, well, who's the assistant coach? We just don't do that. So, careful with the stats.
Yeah. And to be fair, probably don't swing all the way to this. Rodolfo says a 10-year-old playing Madden would have made a better hire than this.
Rodolfo!
Now we're going. This is the other. Wait a minute. Hold on. What's pendulum swinging? Hold on. A 10-year-old playing Madden.
I think Rodolfo trolled us on that. He heard me say, let's not live in the extremes. And he thought to himself, Catch, I got an extreme for you.
He was doing, you know what? That trained monkey on the pole can, all right, calm down. Just calm down. Here's another super chat from Kevin, $10. With Michigan falling apart next year with most of their previous offensive players in the NFL, shouldn't we expect 5-0 after the bye week going into the Oklahoma game? Kevin's already scheduled looking.
Kevin's like, fuck all this.
Kevin's
Let's
ready.
talk about October.
Yeah. Okay, this is cool with Kenny Baker and everything, but are we 5-0 in Dallas? That's what I want to know.
Look, Kevin, I'm never going to tell you what to expect. Well, no, sometimes I guess I do. Should your expectations be 5-0? Maybe. Look, I don't know how to judge Michigan. Forgive me.
Yeah.
I know that going to the big house is a chore for any team that ever goes into the big house. So you can bank on that. I don't know who Michigan's starting quarterback is next season. I don't. They've got one of the is it Alex or Orgy? Like, I'm trying to think. There's a couple of the Orgies that played college football. Let me look it up real quick. This is, by the way, this is kind of the example. Alex Orgy,
yeah,
is the. How about that? Oh, all the names that I've mixed up so far this week, Chad. And then when I get to a name I'm not sure if I'm right on, I nail it first try.
It's like I always say, I can remember the most bizarre names I get introduced to. What I screw up is if I meet a guy named James and a guy named like Derek in the same day. Oh my God, I'll never be able to figure those two out.
I'm pretty proud of myself. And people are like, did Ketch just say orgy? It's O-R-J-I.
Yeah, that's his name. It's an orgy. Ketch is talking about orgy.
So it's not my fault.
No.
But that guy may be the quarterback next year, Kevin. And I don't know if he can throw a pass. And I don't mean that facetiously. I mean, I covered him when he was a high school prospect. Big talent, big arm. You can absolutely fall in love with the guy. I thought it was like a 4-star talent for sure. His career stats as a passer in college are 1 of 1 for 5 yards.
Hell of a pass, though, if you didn't see it.
Oh, man, that running back caught that thing in the flat, and it was such a good pass, Chad. He fell down.
You've got to put, you got to put it where the hands, it was.
Whew. He put it on the money, and then that guy killed over like Fred Sanford.
Effortless.
So shocked by the quality of that 5-yard pass. What Orgy can do, he can run the hell out of the ball. So, I don't know. I don't know. Kevin, I guess what I'll tell you today, should you expect 5-0? Sure. Are you going to hold that? It's January. Are you going to hold me to the shore that I gave?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is, Ketch. They're excited. The bye week is 5 weeks in. 4 games are at home. That's the only game on the road that they have a little nervousness about. They want to know they can go to the big house and get it done.
By the way, Blake, this is funny. Blake's got the super chat for $5. Does that mean I shouldn't put in for the OB job opening? Ha ha ha. No, by all means. What I would say is those are good numbers, Blake.
Good job, Blake.
Volleyball clap. Now, do a little more, like spread that out, explain why it matters or wouldn't matter. Like you're on your way potentially. Absolutely send in the resume.
Yeah. And for everybody on the extreme side of things, maybe don't go here either. Pole Assassin does not need to be the D-line coach. Come on. That's not the answer. It's not. We gotta give some of these NFL guys some credit, right? Here's another thing that popped in my head, Ketch, in terms of Sark here. And one day, I guess they'll ask somebody who asked Sark, and he'll tell you what the connection is. How did he know Kenny Baker, and how did he find out about him? Whatever. But this also could be the experience Sark has had in the pros, right? He's talking in those circles. He's texting in those circles. Vic Fangio is a respected NFL DC, and this just may be a guy people talk about. I mean, Mike Gundy was weird one time and went and found some dude at a school nobody had ever heard of. That guy eventually was the OC at Ohio State. And I think he's still out there somewhere, Yursich, wherever he is. So Texas fans remember that name, obviously. So I don't know. Maybe he's one of those guys. But again, there's a little bit of trust of what's here. There was an interesting comment catch among the OB guys where somebody was saying, hey, if Texas could go get the D-line coach at Michigan and go get one of those badass D linemen if he goes in the portal, then Sark's bowling a 300. I would just ask Texas fans, if he only ends up bowling like a 230 or 245, can you live with that? Because so far, as soon as that game ended with Washington, the pins have been falling pretty well. So can you live with like a solid 245 effort? That might be the question.
By the way, this is an interesting comment. RL from Chatsville, by the way, kind of enjoy that.
That's good.
That
sounds like a Paul Feinbaum guest right there.
Yes. Yeah. Or like a Dr. Pepper commercial person.
RL from Chatsville.
It does sound like he's in a Dr. Pepper commercial. Georgia going to pound us running the ball, just saying, you know what? That might happen. Uh-oh, what did I do? Sorry, Sandman. Apply, yes. It may happen. Like Georgia may pound. So I'm trying to get rid of that damn thing. They may pound the ball on Texas this year. And you know what? It might not be a reflection on how good of a coach Kenny Baker is. When he shows up, it is not his fault with regards to like what's on campus. If Texas gets gashed in the run game next year because of the defensive tackle personnel on the field, do you know who will deserve a little bit of blame? Even if he's not here? Bo Davis.
Bo Davis, yeah.
It may turn out that Bo Davis is more responsible, good or bad, for anything that happens in the run game this year. Because Kenny Baker is going to show up, and he kind of right now has what he has to work with, and nobody is suggesting that any of those guys are going to be All-Americans. So, like this thing is, dare I say, wait for it, nuanced. There's some nuance in this.
Yeah.
And both sides of the equation could be right. In 3 years from now, we may look at this and say it didn't work out and you move on. That's what Sark did with Andre Coleman.
Yeah.
It was like 1 year, didn't work, bring in Brennan Marion. And do you know what happened? Brennan Marion was here for a year and they got another wide receivers coach. So whatever today is, if it doesn't work, Sark will change his mind and hire somebody new.
Yeah.
And I also wonder how much of this was at this time of the year. It gets to be a little bit difficult to make hires.
Well, yeah, it's true. By the way, Ben's got the best idea of the day. I just don't know how realistic it is. I say we go all hands in on Christian Wilkins or Jalen Phillips when they enter the portal. Good call, Ben. If you can make that work, then this is a hell of a hire. All right. This is a hell of a move if it gets you Christian Wilkins on a weird COVID year we didn't know about. Absolutely.
You can't wait. The funny thing is we were going to have the Michigan conversation. I don't even know if that's going to happen today. And part of that conversation was going to be how will Texas go into the portal? Sark makes the one hire where you can't go get somebody from the portal as, a fallback. Because what you could have done is figure out who the best returning defensive lineman in the country is and then just hire that guy's coach. And then when you're done, you pull that guy's pupil in through the portal. And then when that guy goes pro, you fire that defensive line coach. And then you look in like a Phil Steele magazine and you're like, who are the best defensive tackles across the country, and you're checking them off, and you're like, okay, USC's got a guy this year that people think are going to be a first-round draft pick. Hire that guy's coach. That maybe you just shuttle guys in for a year or two until people catch on. It's like, hey, the last 4 guys you've hired them for their pupils, and then when they go pro, you fire them and hire someone else.
Yeah, and real quick, I like our guy Blake, the super producer's analogy here. Sark out here 6 under par, lining up a 30-foot putt on 18. That's not bad for you golf folks. Yeah, you could relate to that. That's not bad. I've never been in that situation. I do not know what it's like to be 6 under par on 18 with a 30-footer. I would love to do that. All right, Catch. It's super chat. So $9.99. # fire Kenny Baker. Wait, what?
Come on.
What happened here? Did we spend
Hold on. Volleyball client for El Presidente. He's the first.
Yes.
He's the first.
I'd say this is day 1, but it's not even like 2-3 hours old. Did we spend all of our staff budget on portal recruits? I'm watching Hard Knocks now to see what kind of banana in the tail Sark is pulling on us. Oh my God. That is
El
funny.
Presidente, that might be my favorite super chat of the year so far.
Man, I'm telling you, Catch, there's so many ways to know college football matters, and the fan bases are like locked in, and it really gets the fact that you can have a reaction like this to a D-line coach tells you everything you need to know. And it also reminds you about what happens in, I believe it's 158 days from now when they go into the SEC. Because deep down, I'll keep saying it, deep down, Texas and Oklahoma fans, they want what every fan base in that conference wants, not to get pushed around. That's the number one thing you have to do, because you don't get, trust me, I know. The number one thing you'll get made fun of for in the SEC is getting pushed around. That's it. If you can't block and tackle, they will hammer you for it, both figuratively and literally. That's what you're hoping today as a Texas fan, that Sark knows what he's doing, that this will work out, and you don't look back and go, well, lost Bo Davis, and you did that, and look what's going on. Back to the reference in the chat, Catch. Georgia's coming to Austin, right? They're coming to Austin, and if they go running up and down that field, what are Texas fans, the hardcore orange bloods, message board folk, going to go to when that happens? They're going right to this hire instantly.
There's a guy that does YouTube videos at our markets that I've hung out with at a strip club before.
Okay.
And his thing, he loves Asian women. Not you, not Chad. This guy loves Asian women.
Okay.
In fact, I have seen him go to the ATM and like hit his limit on multiple cards because like that's his thing. So if we were to go out into Vegas and you were going to tell me that this guy, we were going to the club, the Jiggly Room, I could tell you right away what this guy would want.
You know the type.
Let's reverse engineer this a little bit.
Okay.
What would Sark A have to want? And B, what would the question sound like where Kenny Baker is the answer to the question? The reason why I ask this, man, if Sark just wanted some grizzled old SEC coach that's had some success coaching the defensive line, he's certified. He could have made that hire. I mean, they're not. No, this did not come out of the NIL fund. In fact, I know. Here's what you know about the hiring, right? You're not going to pay him. You couldn't slap a co-DC title on him that's already been given out to Johnny Nansen.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't hire another guy, slap a co-DC title on him, and then pay him coordinator money. But they were paying Bo Davis like 1.1. They could pay this guy 1.1 if they wanted. I promise you, the L-Types and the Chris Del Contes of the world and everybody affiliated with the football program, they're not hamstringing Sark. He tells them they need something. They, by and large, they give it to him. So whatever his question was that ends up with Kenny Baker, it wasn't who's tried and true and going to be a rock solid hire and do a good job. SEC experience. That wasn't the question. Otherwise, Kenny Baker wouldn't be the answer. So, Chad, I'll throw it your way. What does the question have to be for Kenny Baker's name to be the answer? If Sark, look, this guy's coaching at the Senior Bowl, right? So maybe he calls up Jim Nagy, who's head of the Senior Bowl, and he says, Coach, I'm looking to make a hire. What's he asking for? What character trait leads us to Kenny Baker?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's after maybe not getting whatever the first thought you had was. You didn't get to that thought, but it feels like you're asking an X's and O's football guy, who's your next guy? Who's your next badass D-line coach, whether you think people know about him or not? Who knows the game? Give me substance. I want substantive defensive line that doesn't get pushed around. I'm headed to the SEC, damn it. They will get on me if I give everything up the middle. I'm losing Sweat. I'm losing Murphy. Tell me how to I'm losing Bo Davis. Give me a guy. Preferably younger, I guess would be the phrase, if he's 37 years old. But to me, that's it. That's your question. You're asking a pure substantive question that has nothing to do with any flash. That's the question that ultimately you're asking. If I'm a Texas fan, maybe you ask the follow-up, why is Sark asking that particular question? Because he doesn't have to at this point. He should be able to ask different questions, but I think that's what he's asking. He's asking, give me the guy. Give me the guy that in 5 years, he'll be Bo Davis in 5 years. He's going to be Bo Davis quality to where everybody will go, oh, hell, that's the guy we got to get at D-line coach. Who's the next one of those? That, to me, is the question, if he's the answer.
You didn't get to it until the end, Chad, but I think you found your way there. You were like a virgin trying to unsnap a bra. Like, it took you a minute. Your hands were fighting with it, and you're doing this, and you're going to chew that damn thing off, and then eventually you're like, oh, it opened. Don't ask me to tie it back up, but I can open it. I think you got to it at the end. Because I've asked this question today. Orange Bloods is hiring. Blake Bastard is leaving. The thing you guys don't know about Blake is that I have him do like 800 different things. He does sales. He does producing. He does graphics. He sends in. I can go on and on and on the things that I ask Blake to do. So a lot of times it's like, well, I got to go find somebody who can do some graphics, and I got to hire a sales guy. And you start thinking about this in making a hire. Because I can tell you, I've had these thoughts in my head for the last few days since Blake let me know that he was leaving to take another job. There's the conventional way of hiring. But sometimes the hire that you need to make, and look, you also asked the right question, which would be, why now? Why in this moment do this? But I think there's a good chance that Sark approached it just like you said, which is, tell me somebody I don't know who in 5 years I'm going to know because he's such a badass and he hasn't yet found his opportunity. I literally asked somebody that question today. I reached out to them and I said, hey, FYI, I got an opening. Would you potentially like to talk about it? That person's reply was, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. And I appreciate you reaching out. If there's any way I can help, let me know. And I thought, that's a good question. I'm glad you said that. Is there anybody right now out there that just is a superstar in the making that I would be lucky to hire, but I don't know who that is. Tell me, give me some suggestions, and then I'll look into it from there. I have to believe some form of that question was asked to somebody that Sark really trusts. And I think that and here's the other thing we have to acknowledge. He wasn't choice number one.
Right.
He wasn't. But his profile is almost eerily similar to Rod Wright. I mean, had they hired Rod Wright, if Rod Wright's name was Bud Powell, and he was just the assistant defensive line coach for the Houston Texans and didn't play football at Texas, we would have asked the exact same questions that we would be asking today of Kenny Baker about that guy. Why that guy? Why do that? Why not just, if you like the Houston Texans defensive line so much, hire their actual defensive line coach? Like, there's a lot of responses. I keep thinking about what's the question that leads us to Kenny Baker. And I think it's exactly the one that you outlined. He asked somebody that he trusts for, and maybe multiple people gave him this name, but I think he reached out to somebody and said, tell me of a guy that I would be lucky to hire, because behind the scenes in the world, in the NFL coaching world or the defensive line coaching world, he's a guy on the come up. And I think that when he does his next round of media interviews, probably on National Signing Day, right, which turns into more of a 30,000 feet up program conversation, because they won't actually sign many guys.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's the day we're going to get to hear him explain this.
So on signing day, a couple of weeks, 13 days, someone will ask him about it, and he'll give us whatever that answer is. But Chad, I feel like the more I think about it, the more I'm pretty certain that will be part of what the answer sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, you would assume that's where it is, because we always say it, Catch, with players. When we're coming up on draft time, we say no matter no matter where you play, they'll find you, right? If you're a linebacker that's so good, but you're at Buffalo, don't worry, they'll find you if you're good enough. If you're Khalil Mack, they'll actually come find you. And that's sort of what happens with coaches too. We just don't think of it enough that way. These guys have to get there somehow. Somebody's got to know them. Somebody's got to talk about them, and then they make their way up.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, El Presidente, again.
He's hashtag firing everybody.
The extremes. I'm not applauding the idea of firing Blake. I'm just applauding your boldness. That's what I'm applauding right there. That is fantastic.
Hey, by the way, was the other day, where did I have a drink from the other day that somebody accused me of? That's where I had my lunch.
It was Cane's, I believe, wasn't it?
Oh, yes.
You were accused of a Cane's lunch, but it was just the cup.
Today, can you tell?
Is that Sonic? What is it?
Yeah, it's a Sonic. Right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I did have a corn dog.
Of course you did. Because you're a sensible man. That's what you did.
I did have a corn dog. For those of you watching me drink out of my Sonic cup, yep, I had one of those corny dogs. Thank you for playing.
No doubt about it. By the way, a couple of chats in here. Teta, all right, the number one thing they'll make fun of might be the male cheerleaders in janitor uniforms. Fine. Catch, then this name comes up from Blake. Is Jabbar Williams good at graphics and sales?
I'm surprised I haven't called him Kenny Williams yet so far today.
$2 from Blake. Catch, reach out to Jabbar Williams. He's for hire. That's terrible. That's terrible. That is terrible. Jeff did not call everybody Williams yesterday. It was just a couple people that got the Williams treatment.
Was there somebody other than Jabbar?
I can't.
Derek.
By the middle of yesterday's show, they were putting the name Williams on every name they could think of.
That is true.
Oh, yeah, they were doing that. I was Chad Williams, and Blake was Blake Williams, and everybody. Yeah, Anwar was Anwar Williams. Everybody got it yesterday. It is house divided on this Thursday. Headed towards buy or sell. Spent a lot of time on the D-line coach. Kenny Baker is that guy coming from the Dolphins, assistant D-line coach, to become the Longhorns D-line coach. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh leaving Michigan, going to the Chargers. That's going to continue to be a big story. And Catch, before we leave that idea, the window is now open. 30 days for Michigan here. But will they avoid the mass exodus that Bama had by just keeping things tight and hiring the, air quotes, players coach? If they've got their guy and they know the players want him, is this the way to avoid a bunch of guys jumping in the portal?
Maybe. I can remember a couple of McDonald's All-Americans conveying to Texas decision makers that if Rodney Terry wasn't retained as coach, they would decommit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decommitted anyway.
That's a whole nother story, I guess. But yes, yeah, it's true. That can happen too.
You have to be careful when you make a hire for players. The players, some of them wanted Charlie Strong to come back for another year. The players oftentimes are wrong. Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. Look, there have been hires from within that have worked. Once upon a time, not too long ago, Bob Stoops left. What did Oklahoma do? They hired Lincoln Riley. They won a bunch of Big 12 championships. Maybe it flamed out at the end, but nobody would say that wasn't a good replacement, right? I think. Although, I don't know. I don't have my finger on the pulse of OU fans these days. Maybe they think somebody else could have won all those championships with Heisman quarterbacks and stuff. I don't know. But there are a lot of other examples of these situations not working out. And look, the closest to home is Rodney Terry. I have no idea whether or not Rodney Terry is going to make it at Texas or not. But I knew the day that he was hired that he wasn't the most qualified guy that they could hire. He was the sentimental hire. The thing I've got to ask myself, if I'm Michigan, would I remotely be thinking about Chiron Moore had my head coach not got swallowed up in a cheating controversy that required Moore to take over for a couple of games because my coach got suspended like a jackass? I mean, we only know who this guy is because the coach who's above him got suspended for arguably the worst on-field cheating controversy in modern college athletics. That's just what happened. This is a guy that was crying at an interview in halftime of one of the games. This was another, I don't know. Like, I looked at the guy and I'm like, he didn't crash the bus. I also don't look at Michigan's offense and think to myself, God damn, I got to have the OC of Michigan. Like, he's not Lincoln Riley. When Lincoln was at Oklahoma, when Lincoln got the job, we all kind of got it. Okay, Lincoln's a badass. I watched Michigan football for most of the year and thought that Texas could beat them in a bowl game because I didn't think Michigan's offense was that good. So this guy's in the position that he's in because Harbaugh stepped on his private parts and had to have a timeout at the hospital, at the stupidity hospital. And is this the best guy? This guy have any kind of a proven track record? Because I said it when Texas hired Sarkisian. If you're Texas, man, you need to hire a guarantee on the box. And they didn't do that with Sarkisian, but Sarkisian had also had experience at Washington. He'd also had experience at USC. He had recruited a number 1 ranked recruiting class. Chiron Moore, I don't know that he's ever recruited anybody. The one thing that you'd say about Michigan is that they're great developers, but they don't have a bunch of super blue chips on the roster. So this isn't like this guy's the key to recruiting. I don't know. I think it's a mistake. I hate to say it because I don't want to make it sound like I'm piling on the guy himself because I don't know that dude, and maybe I'm wrong. But what I know I'm right about is he's not a guarantee on the box. The amount of success that he's had to warrant this is minimal. And you can't make decisions based on what players who are currently on the roster are going to say, because ultimately this hire is not about them. This hire needs to be in 3 and 4 and 5 years with players who aren't even on the roster yet. So there's my Michigan speech. They're not going to listen to me. They're going to hire this guy. And I kind of think it's asinine. I just do.
Catch, you know what I think of when I see that Michigan offense? I wonder who the assistant to the offensive coordinator is. That's what I want to know. All right, we are over that 1 o'clock spot. Before we hit buy or sell, Mr. Ketchum, why don't you tell them about Mojo Insurance? See if they can help them get it right.
Well, one thing Texas won't have to do is they don't have to call Mojo Insurance today to find out if they need to save some money because they did. Scan that QR code, go to mojoinsurance.agency. They've got a special form for Orange Bloods, both members of the website and then viewers of Orange Bloods Live. It takes like 30 seconds to a minute. You fill it out, send it to them. They do all the work. They shop with over 50 A-rated carriers. They're going to look and see if they can save you money. And if they can, they'll hit you back up and say, hey, Johnny, hey, Chris, hey, Steve, we saved you $300, $400, whatever the case may be, $1 bazillion. Do you want to switch insurances or are you cool? And if you're cool, you keep your insurance. If you want to switch, you're in business. It's kind of that simple. Again, scan the QR code. Just out of morbid curiosity, can you save money versus what you're spending right now? It's weird that you wouldn't want to know the answer to that question. No, I'm good. I like my policy. How do you know you like your policy? Unless you have somebody look around for you to find out if it's the best policy you can get. Mojo Insurance does that. Reach out to them today.
All right, it is buy or sell time. A quick reminder, later on Orange Bloods Live, 2 o'clock, it's the crap bag. I'm going to officially say goodbye to Uga 10, who died this week. One of my favorite mascots of all time. Also going to talk some Royal Rumble with Suplex Stew. That's in the 2 o'clock hour today. Your 4 o'clock hour, if you're a Longhorn, and in the crap bag, I'm going to break down Bevo Uga film because I haven't done that in a while, and it's incredible, and we're going to talk about the heroes. It's awesome. But at 4 o'clock, it's the Modcast. The fellas are going to get together. Catch you in the Modcast today. You back? Ready to roll? Yes. The regular crew on the Modcast, your Ketchum, Anwar, Alex, and Jason.
No Anwar.
Not Anwar.
Yeah.
Jason, Alex, Jeff, and Travis?
Maybe.
As
it turns out, I was just thinking of myself. I'm good for the Modcast later.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure if everybody else is.
Should have just stopped there. I should have just left it there.
You should have. And then people could have believed that Anwar was going to be there. And then they would have showed up and hit the like button and then have been like, oh, damn it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Sometimes I can over promise. We don't want to under deliver, especially since I'm not actually on the show. I should probably just say the Modcast is at 4 on
Crack Bags at 2.
Yeah.
I've heard greatest 1 hour show in the history of shows. No pressure, Chad. Go.
No pressure detected at all. Modcast at 4. They'll be talking about Kenny Baker and what it means for Texas and the fallout at Michigan after Jim Harbaugh. So that's coming up. Outsiders tonight at 9 o'clock as well. If you missed last night on the Outsiders and you heard a rumor that Greg Swindell got Chance Mock to literally show us his ass tattoo, you did not hear a rumor. That actually happened on the Outsiders. So thank you for liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications to Orange Bloods.
Tom G says, give Blake his spotlight before he leaves. Now, Tom, we got like a week. We're good. We got more shows. But Blake, join in for a second because I got like an idea. My wife was watching this movie the other night. I was inspired. I've now seen it like 7,432 times. You ready? Now I've had the time of my life.
Wow.
And I owe it all to you. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
There you go.
Thank you for that.
When a producer's great, we say he's great.
Nobody puts Blake in a corner.
Nobody puts Blake in a corner. Nobody puts Blake in a corner.
That's right. That's damn right, Chad.
You're damn right. You're damn right. Yes, Blake's going to get all kinds of spotlight before he's done. Tom G, thank you for that. All right, Catch.
Well, that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough that we just sang Dirty Dancing to him and quoted some lines. God, you guys want a lot sometimes.
No, because we'll bring him back on. We'll do a scene from The Notebook, and we'll do a scene. We'll do all kinds of good scenes.
Try to lift Blake over our heads.
I'll try to. Right, we'll try to lift him up. We'll see if we can find somebody to do the upside down kiss in the rain from Spider-Man with him. We'll figure it out.
Oh, you can do that.
We'll figure it out. There's got to be somebody on Orange Bloods that's willing to do that, right?
You never know, Chad.
You never know. You never got to ask.
It's like Kenny Baker's recruiting. It might be good.
Exactly. You just got to ask the question. All right, buy or sell time on this Thursday. You want to go first or second today?
I'm sorry. I just read something that Anwar wrote in my Slack channel, and I'll go first today.
Okay, please do. Please do.
I wrote all these by the way, before, like, there's no UT assistant coaching deal here.
Okay.
So we'll hit on all of the other things in sports today that we would have otherwise talked about before Kenny Baker was the Texas defensive line coach. All right. Buy or sell number one. Chiron Moore will make it 5 seasons as the head coach at Michigan.
Oof. That feels a little extreme. I'll sell. Yeah, I'll sell because you get on a bad streak against Ohio State. They're not going to wait that long, so I'll sell.
Buy or sell number 2. Jim Harbaugh will take the Chargers to the AFC title game at the very least in the next 5 years.
Dang, Harbaugh to the Chargers in the title game. Championship game at the very least in the next 5 years. NFL's tough. I'm gonna sell. I'm gonna need to see that play out a little bit before I'm absolutely buying there. That division's really tough. There's still some Mahomes and Andy Reid left to deal with. So yeah, I'm not gonna quite give him that love yet. Playoffs I would have bought, but I'll sell the championship game.
I think they'll make the playoffs next year.
Yeah, playoffs I'm in for, but not all the way there.
The thing you'd say about Harbaugh taking the Chargers job is he's got his quarterback. I mean,
he does have that.
There are jobs where I don't know what kind of guarantee on the box Justin Herbert is, but he's guaranteed on the box. I still know.
And if you can, and no matter what Harbaugh is, Catch, I can guarantee you he's not the level of play calling and time management maniac that they just let go. Like, that dude's a complete maniac and destroys the team with that stuff. Harbaugh won't do that.
Buy or sell number 3. A Phoenix Suns fan was kicked out of the Suns-Mavs game last night for telling Luka Doncic, quote, "Luka, you're tired. Get your ass on the treadmill," end quote. You don't think this crosses the line of fan-athlete interaction? And Luka should have just laughed that off.
In the spirit of the way you constructed it, I'm going to buy. I've heard the explanation from Luka, and he goes after the reporter for what actually happened, but buy. If that was all that was said, it's a buy. Yes.
I don't know how much further that guy can go where, he doesn't call him a fat ass. Like, that would be too much, right?
Right.
Tell him you're tired and then he needs to get on the treadmill. I kind of think that's funny.
Right, but you did hear what Luka said actually happened, right?
No, I heard Luka arguing with Tim McMahon, and I kind of zoned out.
Luka is contending that for the entire first half, this guy was on him saying all sorts of things way worse than that. That's the thing Tim McMahon heard right before Luka wanted him out. And then McMahon assumed that that's what did it, that was the final straw. And Luka's point was, no, man, this dude had been wailing on me for a half, and I was tired of it. So that's at least Luka's side of it.
I need to hear from more. This is obviously a major controversy. We need more sourcing.
Right.
I need to know what else people heard from this guy.
Well, the good news, the good news catches this is an NBA story, so it will be treated with no drama, no soap opera at all. It will be treated like a news story in the 50s.
I hope Charles, Kenny, and the gang, Shaq, I hope they get a hold of this. Oh, it is Thursday night.
No doubt.
Maybe they could have the guy repeat some of the things. I don't know. Like, it is the NBA. Anything's on the table. Yeah. I do want to hear more because I don't want to break into. That could be an hour of a show right there. Yep. Buy or sell number 4. We're ranking the quarterbacks left in the postseason in the NFL.
Okay,
and you sign off on 1 Mahomes, 2 Lamar Jackson, 3 Goff, 4 Purdy.
Yep, that's it. Bye. Absolutely. If we're just quarterbacks, I don't know anything else, how they'll perform. I think that's it. And I do think based on the teams around them, obviously number 2 and number 4 could very well win their games and advance. But yes, that's how I'd rank them.
If Goff were with the 49ers, they'd be in the same position?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I think so too.
Especially just watching Purdy play in the rain last week, you got to put him 4th.
All right, we've got a prime on prime buy or sell number 5.
All right.
Category singing voice.
Okay.
You'll take Whitney over Mariah.
Singing voice, prime on prime, Whitney over Mariah. For all you Mariah Carey fans, this is not meant as any kind of disrespect, but it's a buy. That's Whitney Houston all day, every day. Because there's an effortlessness and there's a soul and there's a flash and there's a everything. Yes. Bye. Because at some point, Mariah Carey has to actually attempt to do what she's doing. I don't think Whitney ever had to. Not once. It just never felt like she was trying.
It always does look like Mariah has to try harder to do the thing that Whitney just seemed to do.
Right. Because
trying harder, though, matter? Like, if you have to try hard, you get in this case, it sounds like we're punishing Mariah because she tries too hard.
No, I'm not necessarily punishing her. And if you want to talk about trick shots, she's got a better trick shot than Whitney Houston does. Because Mariah can get up into an area that Whitney probably couldn't technically get to. But that's a different discussion than like who's got the best trick shot you've ever seen on a basketball court and who is Michael Jordan.
Mariah is like D. Brown and
let me give her more credit than that. She's not D. Brown. No, I didn't mean that. No, is this what you were going for? That
hey, this is true story. I interviewed Kenny Smith back in the day on my Yahoo Sports Radio show, and Kenny was not a fan at all of me.
Okay.
One of the questions that I asked him that did not generate his approval was I asked him if I told him, like, when I was in high school and I was like in middle school, we always would try to practice the Kenny Smith dunks because he's famous for bouncing the ball between his legs, turning around and dunking it after the ball bounces on the ground, hits the glass, and then he dunks it. I asked, did he take pride in the fact that he created a dunk that all people felt like they could try to do? He didn't like that at all.
That's interesting. See, I might have phrased the question slightly differently
it's been 10 years. So how I specifically phrased it, I can't remember. But he didn't like, however I phrased it, he didn't like it. He did not like the fact that I suggested that his dunk on any size goal was something that like normal people could try to do.
Yeah, I guess I could see how that might make him a little snippy. That is one of my favorite dunks in dunk contest history. Easily. It's like in my top 5 of dunks I've ever seen in a dunk contest.
Yeah, I was giving him his credit. I can't tell you how many times. Did I ever like successfully pull it off? Probably not, but I always tried. If I was like on a 5 or 6, like a 6-foot goal, a 7-foot goal, you always try that dunk.
The most amazing thing about that dunk to me is since it happened, how many guys have actually tried it in that contest? It's very few, if any. I've never seen a guy truly go after it like he did, and he nailed it one shot.
You're right. Kenny just didn't like the way I phrased the question.
That's funny. All right. We are halfway through buy or sell on this Thursday. Here we go, Catch. Buy or sell. Just to be clear, you're Michigan. You got to do a coaching search.
Buy. You have to. And I'll fully confess, I've seen like an early Michigan list, and it makes me think that they actually don't want to hire anybody on the list, so they came up with the crap list. Not like that Chris Kleiman is a bad coach or crap or anything like that, but by God, you're Michigan. Go hire a badass. So I'm a little surprised that, like, not just that they're probably going to go with Moore, but that the alleged options, if they don't go with Moore, are guys that I don't think are Michigan ready or Michigan man. I don't know. I don't get it.
All right, Catch. This was done before the Kenny Baker, so I'll slightly change it here. Buy or sell number 2. Texas should have looked into the Michigan D-line coach and key D linemen that may hit the portal, because that's how the portal works now.
I mean, you just, from your keyboard to God's ears is what I think a lot of people who are Texas fans, I think that's what they were hoping for. Yeah, I mean, they definitely should have looked into it. Bye.
All right, buy or sell number 3, Catch. To the Luka story. NBA players should be able to have fans thrown out of games.
Buy. Yeah. I mean, if Luka was in concert and somebody was just constantly annoying him in concert, I don't think I've seen comedians throw people out of him. I've seen it on all walks of life. I don't have a problem with Luka doing that. I hope it was for a little bit more than that, because in a vacuum, that guy's comment was kind of funny.
Yeah. Okay. So real quick, do you have a favorite big name that you've seen throw somebody out of their show? Do you have that name in your mind right now?
The one that stands out is a comedian.
Okay.
And it was the guy from Titus, right? Titus, the TV show.
Yeah. I can't think of his name. His name is Titus, right? It's like, what's his name? Christopher Titus, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw him at the Austin Comedy Club back in the day. And I'll tell you later.
Okay.
But he got so I'll just tell you this. There was a 60-year-old dad and like a 25, 30-year-old like daughter that were there together. And the comedian in question may have called her the C word like 10 times.
Dang.
Do not interrupt a comedian show with like you're talking.
No.
They do not like that.
Damn. That is crazy. Mine was Chris Robinson of the Black Crows in Houston. He threw somebody out for laser pointing him. It was one of the best things I've ever seen. And he heckled him on the way out. He walked across the stage just chewing him out as they were taking him away.
This old man who was involved in this situation waited for the dude in the parking lot. Like, he waited a good 2 hours to fight in the parking lot.
That's crazy. All right, Catch. Buy or sell number 4. I'm going to do the RIP Ugga show on the crap bag this afternoon. Mount Rushmore of live college mascots: Ugga, Bevo, Ralphie, and Mike the Tiger.
That husky was beautiful for Washington.
Dubs is pretty nice. Dubs is nice. You want 2 dogs in there?
I'm getting rid of Ugga and I'm putting in the Washington mascot.
Oh, good Lord. I'm trying to play a man's game here. What are you doing? You're getting rid of Ugga? You can't have one dog and it not be Ugga. You can have two dogs.
Yes, I can have another dog instead of Ugga.
Oh, my God. Okay, fair enough. And finally,
who didn't almost have its life ended by a Longhorn?
Wait a minute.
Question.
You're counting points off for Ugga because of the incident with Bevo? Is that what you just did?
I am.
Wow, okay.
That dog almost created a national incident.
Yeah, it was the dog's fault. Okay, finally, buy or sell number 5. Saturday night, you will peek in on the Royal Rumble.
Oh, I won't lie. Sell. I'll be interested. It'll be one of those things that by Sunday, I will type in Royal Rumble into Twitter and see what's there. But no, man, I'm out. I don't even know what I'm doing Saturday night, but I haven't ordered a WWE pay-per-view. I don't know. Long time. A decade.
Well, there's no need to order anymore, right? You got Peacock.
Oh, they're showing the Royal Rumble on Peacock?
Dude, since the WWE network switched to Peacock, every single pay-per-view is free on Peacock. You didn't know that?
WrestleMania?
Every one of them. Yes.
Did not know that. I might check it out now.
Since the day they started WWE Network, as long as you get the network, you've been getting every pay-per-view for free. All of them.
They're not pay-per-views anymore. No wonder I haven't heard about them.
There you go. There it is. I just helped you out. How about that?
I mean, the question now really becomes, now that I know it's free, does it change my opinion? I don't know. But I do know now on Saturday, I will think to myself, it's free. Maybe go see if the Junkyard Dog is in action and just flip it on over.
Kids, I got a feeling, rest in peace, Junkyard Dog. Kids, I got a feeling that when CM Punk's music hits on Saturday, Mr. Ketchum might.
It's funny you should ask that. Do you know what put me to bed last night?
The Dark Side of the Ring on JYD?
The Dark Side of the Ring on Magnum TA.
God, that's a sad one. Holy crap. Man,
I was a big Magnum TA guy back in the day.
Oh, so sad. By the way, new season, March 5th of Dark Side of the Ring.
I had what did I learn in that? That Andre the Giant is the one that gave him his name. Well done, Andre.
Yes, exactly. Dude, Andre is such a great, he's legendary in ways you don't even know. It's so good.
If you had given me 1,000 guesses and said, name the person that gave Magnum TA the Magnum TA name, you might have been able to give me 5,000, and I don't know if I would have circled back around to Andre the Giant.
That would have been the best. Just sitting over in a corner, smashing like his 18th beer. My booze would call him Magnum TA. What? What did he just say? That's awesome. All right, there's buy or sell for this Thursday. Catch, before we get out of here, one quick update, and you guys may get into this, I know, on the Modcast, but it happened after the show yesterday. Ryan Williams did officially recommit to Alabama. Apparently that picture with every family member in a jersey did matter. So Ryan Williams is going back to Bama. That's a big deal for Kalen DeBoer.
It's maybe the first big deal for Kalen DeBoer to be able to lock that up. He was never going to come to Texas. It's a kick to the private parts for Auburn, because I think that was going to be, let's plant a flag on the moon kind of moment and say, Saban's gone. This is us saying that it's our time. So it's a big loss for Auburn. I mean, we've talked about that recruitment a lot. Kudos to Alabama. It's funny. I hadn't even thought about the DeBoer angle of that until you just said it. It was just kind of like, maybe that is like subconsciously Alabama is still Alabama, because when he committed, I was like, okay, Alabama.
Yeah. And the good news there for some of the players, I've heard comments from players that are staying, from a player like Ryan Williams, like the discussion that the message DeBoer is giving them, a lot of them are buying into it. And Bama fans won't want to be patient, but I'm just really interested to see if he can keep. I mean, it's Saban. It's going to come down, but can he keep it at a level that'll make them still feel like they're Alabama?
Well, look, I liked the hire when they made it in the sense that in the lead up to the Texas-Washington game, we did a show where one of the big questions I was asking is Kalen DeBoer like Urban Meyer before Urban Meyer was Urban Meyer? And, so I can't be a hypocrite and say, oh, they went out and got a guy that sucked when I was literally suggesting before the Texas game. And certainly after, I was really impressed in watching his team play, the way they've handled their business. He's a good coach. Is it maybe even a great coach? Does it work at Alabama? I mean, I don't even know that we knew that Nick Saban was automatically going to work at Alabama. It's such its own thing. It's Texas in a different way is exactly the same. These are huge, massive jobs, and sometimes really talented people can fail at them because it does take like a special connection to actually occur. And we'll see. But like, it doesn't surprise. That guy wins like 11 games for every game in his career that he's lost. I mean, he just wins everywhere. So that stuff doesn't happen by accident. I think Alabama will be okay. The thing that you said is like, is that good enough? Is okay good enough? Like what is Alabama's version of okay? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that one's going to be interesting. And real quick before we get out of here, Catch, we'll talk about this as the week continues. We'll try to get into this tomorrow a little bit, but you and I have been talking about the Super Bowl jewelry discussion in terms of house divided and also the Longhorns specifically. Here's an extra reason, because you and I do not want the Niners to win a Super Bowl. That's fair, correct?
Yes.
You agree with me there. Here's an extra reason. It's because if the Niners win it, no Longhorn and no Aggie get extra rings. But any other combination, any other team, you at least get one. Longhorn fans, you got Duvernay and Tucker on the Ravens, and you've got Emenike on the Chiefs, but you don't have any in the NFC. If you're an Aggie fan, you got Matabike on the Ravens, and you got Reynolds on the Lions. So if you want both to get rings, the double house divided would be the Ravens. Catch. If the Ravens get a ring, that means Tucker would have two, Duvernay gets his first, and then Matabike would get his first. There it is.
But if the Lions win, Dan freaking Campbell gets a Super Bowl ring, and Aaron Glenn gets a Super Bowl ring. Mm-hmm. And if the 49ers win, which I don't want to have happen, Kyle Shanahan wins a ring. So
that's true, right? From the coaching perspective, the other, I guess the NFC does have the Longhorns.
We've just never thought of it before like this because rarely.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy that both? And I don't want to take it. This would be a great March show topic at some point, but it's crazy that look, as good as Sarkisian is, Kyle Shanahan's above him in the coaching world hierarchy. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like no matter how good Mike Elko is, Dan Campbell is ahead of him right now in the power rankings of head coaches. Mm-hmm. It's crazy that maybe the best head in a world where it was like put all your head coaching possibilities on a piece of paper for either school. Never before in the history, I guess maybe when Tom Landry was there, maybe there was a random Aggie coach out there that could have been the guy. But I can't really remember much in my lifetime where you would say the single best guy that you could get for the job just happens to be kicking ass in the NFL and maybe about to win a Super Bowl. But I think Shanahan will never do it. He's an NFL lifer. But I do wonder if there will be a point sometime in his career where Dan Campbell does everything he wants to do in the NFL and comes back and takes the Aggie job. I think it's much more possible that that happens than Shanahan at some point would ever come back and take the Texas job.
That is a wild way to look at San Francisco, Detroit. House divided head coaches meeting at the 50. That is, the day they were hired, would those two fan bases have said, "Oh yeah, no, they'll meet at the 50 in a NFC title game one day." It's going to happen on Sunday. All right. Anything else you got today, Catch?
No, I'm good. I'm good for now. I'll be back in like 2.5 hours, and we'll do the and you'll be back in like 30 minutes. We're just gonna take a quick breath, and I might get my ass on a treadmill. No, it won't happen. But that was funny, Phoenix Suns fan.
That was good.
Someone could have said that to me in the chat, and I wouldn't have blocked them.
Yeah,
you're done for the day, treadmill man. No, I'm good. We'll be good until 2 and good until 4.
All right. Like, subscribe, get those notifications. Crap Bag coming up at 2, Modcast at 4, and The Outsiders tonight at 9 o'clock. We will have a good time all throughout the day. Thank you for supporting us here. Thanks to Blake, the super producer, for all his great work. Thanks to Specs for being the sponsor of the chat. Remember, specsonline.com or get the Specs app. You can get it delivered to you same day in many situations, or just hit your local Specs location. Until noon tomorrow for a Friday show, we are House Divided. See ya.